church. As you can tell, I do not have a British accent. I'm from the U.S., not Canada. I get that one a lot. From the U.S. My husband and I are here as missionaries. We went to Rainbow Bible College in the U.S. and then got married and came over here. And we've been in England for about almost 9 years. So we started off in Manchester at Go Church there, and when Pastor Mackay and Fina felt led to move to Bradford to plant this church, we felt to go with them as well. And so that's why we're here. And as you can tell, it is a family service by all the little ones that have been running around. So I'm going to try and keep it a little bit shorter since their attention span is small. So today there tend to be two kinds of people in the world. There are the planners who like to know what is going to happen, what's the next step, and there are those people who like to do things at the drop of the hat on a whim. And some people are a bit of both, but mostly people will lean one way or the other. Myself, I'm a planner. I've always been a planner. Like organization, I like to know what is happening, when it's happening, what I need to bring with me to do it. I have mellowed out over the years. I used to be very much need a plan. I've mellowed out. I'm more comfortable with the unknown now, which is good. And I can do things on a whim. My husband, Kenny, is the complete opposite. He is a let's just go and do. No planning required. And just like me, he has changed over the years a bit. He is much more organized and plans more than he used to be. Taking several youth mission trips has really changed him. You don't have to be a planner for that to happen when you're taking kids out of the country. So they say the longer that you live with someone, the more you start acting like them. So I guess maybe we have flipped off on each other. But when we were first married, we've been married maybe a week, and Kenny got home from work, and he said, let's go on a picnic. And the planner and me started saying, okay, where are we going? What are we eating? How long are we going to be there? Because I wanted to know what I needed to take. Like, do I need food, or are we going to stop and get it? So my planner brain did this, and I asked so many questions. He's like, fine, we just won't go. Because to him, I didn't want to go because I needed the plan, and he just wanted to go. So whether you are like me and like to plan, or like Kenny, we all have a plan from God. That's what I want to talk about today is God's plans. So God has plans for us. In Jeremiah 29, verse 11, it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. Right there, plain language, it says that God has plans for us. God is a planner. He had a plan from the beginning of time. It says in the Bible that he knows the end from the beginning. We see that throughout the Bible. Just think about the plan that he had with Jesus. He knew that he was going to need to send his son, and he made provision for it and planned it out. So we see that all the way through the Bible. And he has specific plans, specific things for each one of us to do. His plans for us are all very different, though. So for some of us, he has planned for us to move to the other side of the world and be a missionary. But for other people, he has planned for you to go to your neighbors and minister to them. Some people, he has planned for them call them to be pastor of thousands. And for others, he has called them to be a mother to their children. One plan is no better than the other. They are God's plans for each of us. He planned it and tailored it specifically for you. He thought of you before you were even in your mother's womb. Which is kind of crazy to think about. Because we don't often, I didn't think about my child before I was pregnant. I had thoughts, yes, I want kids, but I didn't know them before I had them. In Psalm 139:13, it says, "For you created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb." And then in Jeremiah 1:5, it says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." Before you were born, God knew you, and he set you apart for a specific plan, for a specific purpose. Just like for Jeremiah, he sent him as a prophet to the nations. He has something just for you. When you are going to have a baby, you don't wait until they're born to plan for them. You start preparing when you find out. Generally, you get clothes, you get a cot, car seat, lots and lots of nappies. Very important one, must have the nappies. You think about them and you plan for them when you find out. When I got pregnant, we did all the planning, all the preparing, we got all of the stuff, even the stuff that you realize later on they don't actually need. We got it all. But I also started praying for that little baby. As soon as I knew there was somebody in there, I started praying for them. Prayed for their health, that they would have all 10 fingers, all 10 toes, nothing missing, nothing lacking, perfect little baby. But I also started praying that they would have the right people in their lives, that they would have the right friends, that they would have the right people surrounding them, even for their spouse. It may seem silly to think, you haven't even had the baby yet, to pray for those things. But I was thinking about my kid's future. And if we as natural parents can do that, how much more must God think and plan for us? He has plans, specific things, some big, some to us seem very small, but they're specific. And God knew you and had those plans long before you knew him, long before even your parents knew you. But God has a plan, and it's a good plan. He desires good things for you. In 1 John 3:1, it says, "See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God." We are God's children. He is our Father. And I'm not going to go too much into that, because last week, Emma spoke a really great message about God being a good Father and us being his children. I love his children. So if you haven't heard it, you can find it on YouTube. I would suggest listening. It's very good. But as Emma said in her message, God is our Father, our Abba, our Daddy. So parents want what's best for their kids. When you're a parent, you do whatever you can to give your kids the best things. So even my parents now, so I'm in my 30s, and my parents still, I go to visit them, they do everything they can to make my stay like the easiest, the nicest. They never let me pay for anything, even try to. It's always, what can we get you? Do you want us to fill the refrigerator with anything? They want what's best for me because I'm their child. And they love me. So you never, as a parent, you would never do anything to hurt your children. You only want the best for them. You try to protect them from everything. When our oldest went to reception, she kept coming home saying that this little boy was pushing her down. She came home probably every day for 2 weeks saying that this little boy had done this to her, and the protective parent in me wanted to go handle it. Never before wanted to punch a 5-year-old, but all of a sudden, I had all these feelings. I wanted to protect her. She's my baby, right? I don't want her to be bullied. I don't want her to feel bad. But also, as parents, we can't protect them 24/7. So, we went through the process of telling her how to deal with it, and eventually it got handled through school, not through me going and punching a 5-year-old. But that's how you you are as a parent is you love that child. You want to protect them. I was struggling because I wanted good things for her. I didn't want her to have to deal with all of this because I love her. And that's the way God is. He loves us unconditionally. And some people have this idea that God is the one that gives things like sickness, or that he's the one that causes someone to have cancer and die in their family. And if we know that God is our Father, and we know how much as a parent you love your child, how can we ever think that he would do that he would give that? In the Bible, it says in James 1:17 that every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. That means if it was the same then, it's the same now. So every good and perfect thing comes from God. I don't know about you, but I don't think sickness or cancer or financial struggles are a good thing. That to me can't come from God, because every good and perfect thing comes from God. And in John 10:10 it says, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it to the full, or abundantly. So when you're thinking of something that is happening, like sickness, cancer, financial struggle, that's coming from the devil. That's his plan. The good stuff, that's from God. God can take the bad things that happen in life, and he can turn them around and use it for good. You had sickness, God can heal you. He can use it as a testimony to reach someone else. But he's not the one that gave it to you. It's not God's plan for you to be sick. God's plan for you are good. And it says in Jeremiah, where we read before, that he has plans to give you a future and a hope. That's a good thing. God isn't in heaven just waiting for you to mess up so he can, bam, judgment on you. That's not how he is. He's a loving Father. Just like we don't wait for our kids to do something wrong so we can lay down punishment, we discipline our kids out of love. We look to the future, to their future. If we get them to make good decisions now when they're young, that's going to help them when they're older. They're going to make good decisions. It's going to give them a better future if they're making good decisions. And just that same way, God looks to the future and wants us to make good decisions now, but he does it out of love. When I was a kid and my parents would discipline us, every time we would get disciplined, they'd sit us down after and they'd say, we talk about why we were in trouble, what the right thing to do was, and they would always say, we do this because we love you. And I remember being a kid going, yeah, right. I think not. If you really loved me, you wouldn't discipline me. But being a parent now and being on the other side of it, I know that they did do it in love, that they're wanting me to make the right decisions. And just like that, I was talking with Lily yesterday, 5-year-old, and we were talking about love, and I was saying how much I love her. I'm like, I love you, right? Yeah. And what about when you get in trouble? Does mommy still love you then? Yeah. Even though I may get very upset with them, may yell, put them on break, they still know that I love them. And it's just that way, God loves us unconditionally. And his plans for us come out of that love. And I never really understood unconditional love until I became a parent. And as soon as we had kids, all of a sudden, I realized that it didn't matter what that child ever did their nothing that my children can do that will ever stop me from loving them.
That's right.
And I might get upset with them and very annoyed with them and need to go put myself on break for a while every once in a while. But it never changes my heart for them, my love for them. And that's the same way with God. He loves us even more so, unconditionally. Even when we were sinners and we didn't act like we should, he still loved us and he still had a plan for us, even at that point.
Yeah.
So I want you, if you, maybe you don't know what God's plan is for you, right? So a lot of times people go through life not knowing what that plan of God is for them. I want to encourage you to spend some time in prayer about it, to spend time praying out the plan of God for your life. In James 1:5 it says, if any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So if you need wisdom, ask for it. If you don't know what to pray in the Spirit. In Romans 8:26 it says, in the same way the Spirit helps us in our weakness. If we do not know what we ought to pray, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. Sometimes we need to just pray in the Spirit because we don't know the words to pray. But we need to spend that time praying and praying out the steps. When we were first starting out in ministry, first come to England, we were praying about the next step for us and what God wanted for us. And God gave me kind of a picture while we were praying of stepping stones, like in a garden. So if you're in your garden and you have those little stepping stones that you walk through, one here, space, there's another one, you can take a step through your garden without stepping on the grass or mud. Those little stepping stones, that's how prayer is. And the more you pray, the more stepping stones you're putting out in front of you. If you're not praying out the plan of God for your life, you don't know where the next stepping stone is. And that's what God was showing me. So pray so that you can see those stepping stones. You may just see one stone. You may see one step ahead. But then you'll see the next. Often, God doesn't show us all of the steps. He'll only give us a little bit. You often only see directly in front of you, like wearing a visor. You can only see that far. And I think that's probably a good thing, because sometimes what God has for us is way more than our little brains can handle. We might try and go too fast and get there on our own, in our own time, or we may say, that's too much, and run the other direction. Think about Jonah. God told him to go to Nineveh. He said, no, that's too hard, and he went in the opposite direction. So sometimes that's what God does, is he only gives you a little bit. God once showed me a vision of something to happen in the future, and I will say it scared me to no end, because it was what I thought was too hard. I was 21. I had barely finished Bible school. I was on my first ever mission trip, and he showed me something that to me just looked huge to me. Something that I would never be able to do. It involved being in front of a lot of people. And I have to say, I don't like being in front of people. You know, one-to-one conversations, yay. Give me a group of little kids, no problem. Adults are scary. But I've never liked being in front of people, and to see this vision of being in front of a lot of people, it scared me. I'm like, I'll never get there. I'll never be able to do that. That's what my brain was saying. But more than 10 years down the road now, that vision isn't nearly as daunting. Has it come to pass yet? No. That's still something for the in my plan that God has for me, the easier that thing looks. And the more I realize, really, it is something that I can do. It's not so scary. Because God is way smarter than we are. As I said earlier, he knows the end from the beginning. He sees how every step set before you will lead to the next and will lead to what he does have for you. When I was 16, I knew what I was going to do after graduation. So I was going to graduate from high school at 18. I knew I was going to go to Rhema Bible College. I knew for my second year I was going to do youth ministry. I just knew I had 4 years of my life planned out already. So when I got to Rhema and we're getting close to the end of the first year, half of my class started freaking out at the end of first year because they didn't know the next step. Everybody's like, no, what am I going to do? I don't know what I'm called to. How do I know what to specialize in? Should I be a pastor? Am I going to be a missionary? I don't know where to go. But I knew, because God had told me when I was 16 what the next step was. And halfway through my second year, God spoke to me about taking the third year. And so I had the next step. I finished third year, and I had no idea why God told me to take anything that he had told me to take it. I had taken youth, and I have to say that I didn't even like youth at the time. They annoyed me. I have since changed my mind. It's okay. But I had no idea why he would say to do that. But since we have moved to England, we have been over 2 different youth ministries. So I now see why God had me take youth ministry. It makes sense now. I took a bunch of children's classes in third year. Had no idea. Children's ministry was not even anywhere on my radar. Had no idea, but that's what I felt led to do, and so I did. And now I have been the children's leader here for almost 6 years, ever since we started. So those children's classes have come in extremely handy. I also took missions classes in third year, and, well, been on the mission field for almost 9 years, so those make sense now. But at the time, I was like, why? And from all of those classes that I took, from second, third, even first year, I've taught classes on those in Bible schools on 2 different continents. At the time I was taking them, had no idea why. My step that I was taking made no sense at all, but God knew that I was going to need those in the future, that I was going to need that. So I may have had no idea, but God knew. And when we feel God leading us in a direction, we don't always know why, but we can know that he knows why, and we can rely on him. Had I not gone to Rhema when I was 18, I wouldn't have met Kenny. So I probably wouldn't be married to Kenny. I might be a missionary, but probably not in England, because England wasn't on my radar at all until I met Kenny. So I wouldn't be here unless I had taken those steps. And you may not know what the next step is, or you may not understand why you're taking the step that you are now, but God knows. And you may feel like you don't hear God when he is telling you. Just take some time away and spend some time in prayer. And it may be that God shows you a picture, like I saw. It may be that God speaks to you in an audible voice. Or it may be that it's just a small voice on the inside with a yes or a no. It's called the still small voice. So take some time and pray about that future. But then take some time and listen. Having a conversation goes both ways. you're talking to someone and you are doing all of the talking, that is not a conversation. So make sure you're taking some time to listen. Listen for that still small voice. And it may be that you need to take a step. Often, it's hard to just step out unless you hear God say, yes, in a big voice. But, you know, a boat that is moving is a lot easier to turn than a boat that is not. So take a step and listen to hear God saying, yes, this is the right direction. No, it's not. Step out. And remember that God does have a plan for you. He has a good plan for you to give you a future and a hope. And He'll show you the next step, even if it doesn't make sense and doesn't seem like you have enough information. He knows what you need, and He knows when you need to move. But you may be thinking that you don't know God as your Father, and that you can't know what His plans are because you don't know Him. If you want to know Him, you can. It says in the Bible that all that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. You can know Him as your Father. You can get those steps into your life. So I'm going to do a prayer, and I'd like everybody here to say along with me, in case there's somebody that wants to. Father, we just thank you for giving your Son. We believe that He died on the cross for my sins, that He was raised again. We thank you, Lord, for your gift to us, and we freely take it. In Jesus' name. If you are here and you are struggling with the next step, feel like you need direction and you want somebody to pray with you, I would be happy to pray with you about that. So I'll stand up here for a few more minutes. But just know you can do that on your own as well. God has that next step. I want to thank everybody for coming this morning. We will have refreshments, tea and coffee and biscuits, and I will be up here for a few minutes if anybody